if you just bought an RV and you're trying to figure out which accessories and supplies to purchase. I'm going to try and explain how I did it and hope you learn something from me. When you bought your RV, you probably were provided a starter kit or a gift card to get the supplies you need to get going. We were provided a $50 gift card and we went to the retail store next door, loaded up on the supplies that we needed, walked out with about $250 worth of stuff. The first thing we looked at was sewer hose kits. We looked at some very expensive Vipers and other brands, and we looked at some really low-end starter kit stuff, and we decided on the middle of the road with the Dominator 20-foot sewer kit and a 5-foot extension. One of the reasons for choosing the Dominator was that the part that went into the sewer was actually clear. I know the picture that I showed doesn't show that, so you will have to double check when you buy one that it actually does have the clear part that goes into the sewer. I find that to be very helpful when trying to find out if the thing's been flushed properly. Another thing I bought was a 45-degree clear elbow to put at the output of the sewer connection on the trailer. It's real convenient to be able to watch there as well.
Another thing I got were these sewer weights. You put that on the end of the part that goes into the sewer receptacle and it holds it down. I was at one where there was no suction. It didn't fit very well and it was kind of at a weird angle, so I thought I'd buy these just to make sure it never pops up on me. I don't want to be the guy from the movie RV. Alright, I was at a RV park where the sewer cap was on so tight I couldn't get it off by hand. And I had a hard time finding a pair of pliers, and it was kind of a pain in the butt. So I don't remember if this was $5, $4, $10, but whatever I paid for it, I think it's going to be worth it. It's what it's designed for. I'm sure a pair of channel locks would work just fine, but I'd rather leave my channel locks in my toolbox. Okay, I bought one of these flexible, retractable hoses. I don't know what they call them exactly, but it's real compact, and I'm going to use this for cleaning up any sewer spills because it came with a little nozzle as well, a spray nozzle, and for doing the black tank flush. That way I can put it in a plastic bag, keep it from cross-contaminating any of my other stuff. So that setup was like $11. It's worth every penny of it in my mind.
Another thing I bought was the sewer hose support, and what I found is that I've never used them. I suppose they're very useful for someone who is a full-time RVer or is going to stay so long that they're going to be wanting to leave their black tank open. What I find is that I just flush it at the end of a trip, and you can basically just lift the hose to get the rest of it to go into the sewer as you're wrapping up your hoses. And that's usually just gray water, so I'm not worried about spilling it. Anyway, I don't find the value in buying one of these for the casual vacationing RVer. Another thing that could come in handy is a sewer cap with a hose outlet. It can help you dump off some shower water if you fill up and can't get to a dump site. I'll let you decide the ethics of doing so, but I see a lot of people doing it this way. Water a tree with your bath water. No sewage, please. Well, camping is fun, even with all the black tank problems you can have. But one of the things that might happen someday is that you'll have too much toilet paper in the system, and when you go to dump the black tank, it'll plug the exit, and then you'll either have to rock your trailer back and forth, or you can use this back flush attachment. You stick a high pressure hose up to it and shoot it back up in there, and it usually breaks it free. I've had to use it a couple times. It's very worthwhile having. And I'm sure it's obvious that you have to use special toilet paper for RVs so it disintegrates faster. And you should also pour some chemicals down in the black tank. I'll let you choose which ones you want to use. I use the little one-time use bottles, just buy 8 at a time, and pour one down there for every tank, and it does a fine job. And lastly, when handling black matter, it's always a good idea to wear some sort of hand protection. Some people like rubber gloves, but I don't want to keep putting my hands in the same old rubber gloves, so I use disposable latex gloves. They do me just fine.
Alright, so you're going to need a freshwater drinking hose. The rubber ones, they leave a taste, I guess. And so you're going to want to spend the money to get a freshwater hose. If you're winter camping, I guess you need an electric one. I don't, so I just bought the standard Camco drinking water hose, 25 feet. I bought an intake filter. I put that at the faucet end, just so no sulfur or anything gets in the hose. I also bought a right angle adapter for coming out of the trailer, and as well a regulator. I didn't feel I needed a gauged regulator, nothing fancy, just the basic stuff. I think that's going to do me fine, I hope. I bought one hose when I went out on my first outing, and I realized I was dangerously close to not having enough hose, so I bought a second one. This was a Walmart hose, so it's not quite as sturdy as the Camco from Camping World that I bought, but it's good enough for a backup secondary hose. The other thing I bought was a freshwater filler tube. I suppose a person could use an old cut-off piece of hose from their garden hose, but you know, you buy a new RV and the first thing you want to do is go out and spend all your money on accessories, so I did. And then the other thing is these clamps for holding the hose. They're pretty handy. They're called a cable raptor. Anyway, they kind of keep your hoses and cables in check. They're a little fragile. I tossed one on the ground with my extension cord and it broke. So, you know, they're not real sturdy, but I guess if you take care of them, they're kind of neat to have, convenient for, you know, storing your cables so they don't get all tangled in your hoses. Alright, this little gem is worth every penny. Buy a good one. Sometimes when you go to the RV parks, the threads on the faucet are really, really old and they don't work well. Sometimes you need a water thief, but generally you can, you know, thread one of these on there. With the plastic cap, it's a little more forgiving, and then it's got the nice brass for my end. And what that does is protects the threads of your hoses from getting damaged on a really corroded or badly cross-threaded faucet. Also, you know, with the splitter, you can run one to your water intake of your RV, and the other you could put a little hose on there for cleaning off mud and things like that. So I think one of these is essential. So this is a water thief. I was dangerously close to not being able to screw my hose on at a KOA. It took some finesse to get it to thread on there. And so I imagine one of these days I might need this, but you just slip it over the faucet and that way you can get water. Hopefully that's not going to be too much of a problem and I'll never need it, but if I do, I have it. Another thing to have is a couple extra washers for your hose. You know, these things sit out in storage in freezing weather all year, and we winterize them and we take care of everything, but then, you know, those hose washers have a tendency to crack. So your first outing, spring comes and your water hose leaks. So I'd suggest just having a couple of washers with you. So the water hose actually puts a lot of tension on that little cheesy connector that sticks out the side. So invested in one of the little right angle adapters plus a regulator, and I think that really makes a big difference in how long that's going to last there. You can see how that wobbles around there. Can you imagine if we bumped into a hose sticking out or something? So I think that was a good investment. Splitter on there. I put the water filter at the faucet so none of that stinky water can get in the hose. And then we drove with an empty tank, so I put 10 gallons or so in the fresh water tank to supplement any city water problems we might have or anything. So do that before I hook up. City water hooked up. Bought these little caps. They're pretty convenient for plugging the end of the hose so water doesn't drip all over your container, storage container. Some people might say, well, why don't you just screw it into itself? Well, because these were $1.97 for a pair, one male, one female. And now I don't have to worry about wrapping the cable up to be perfectly matched end to end.
You're going to need some sort of wheel chocks. I've tried the X chocks, all kinds of different chocks, and I am dead set that the Fastway one-step chocks are the best available for the 2-axle travel trailers.
Alright, these, now I couldn't use the X chock blocks because how low the skirt comes down, so I bought these, and this is the greatest thing ever. I love these things. You just step on it and they're locked, pull on that cord when you're ready to go and they come out. If you're really worried about security, loop that through the wheel and the hole and put a padlock on it.
You're definitely going to need some leveling blocks. I'd say at least 12. Don't worry about getting a fancy kit with a nice stow bag or anything. You're going to end up just putting those in your stow bins. They're going to get dirty and stuff. You're not going to want to put them back into a bag. What you need these for is to put underneath the wheels to level your trailer from side to side. Additionally, you'll put them underneath your stabilizer jacks so that you don't have to extend them all the way. And you'll also need a few for your tongue jack. And the thing is, you don't want to jack that thing all the way up. It puts a lot of pressure on that little pole. So the less you can extend that pole, the better.
This method of raising and lowering the stabilizing jacks sure does get old. What you really need is a cheap cordless electric drill, and you don't need an expensive Craftsman 3/4 inch socket. You just go out and get a $1.50 spark plug kit, and then of course you'll need the drill to 3/8 adapter. Put it all together, it's about 25 bucks, and you never have to get on your knees and crank that thing down again. You just put the drill on there and just it's cheap enough. Just leave it in the rig. You won't even need to charge it while you're out. I got this bag from Harbor Freight for $5.99. I got the rigid 18-volt drill. That's as good as any Makita. I recommend it. Keep some screws and drill bits and screwdrivers and just stuff, as well as a socket kit, but that's too large for the bag. But this bag has become my go-to tool bag. I kind of just throw the stuff I normally need in there and works out pretty good.
If you don't have a ladder on your rig, you're going to want a ladder. And, who's going to carry a big old ladder around? So I found this telescoping ladder on eBay for 58 bucks. It works great. I can get up on the slide, get the branches off. You don't want to be pulling branches and leaves and stuff in with the slide. Well, everybody has to have totes. I thought I'd be good with my Rubbermaids, but they wouldn't fit through the hatch slot. So I went out to Walmart for $17.96 each and bought 3 of these lockers.
My hoses and cables and all the stuff I need to get connected. And then back there I have another one. I can give that a pull and get it out of there if I need it. That's like backup stuff. People come to stay that don't have a tent or whatever. I got some stuff for them there. You'll also notice that in my greasy, dirty bin that I have a grease gun. And the reason is, if you ever hear a grinding noise when you're taking off and you already have loosened the sway control arm, it could very well be that it's the hitch ball itself or the bars. And you'll notice that there is a Zerk fitting on there. Give it a squirt or two, put a little bit on the balls, and a lot of that creaking goes away. Alright, I bought this hitch lock, so it makes it harder for someone to, just hitch up and steal it. I'm sure if they really wanted it, they could find a way to get that loose and hitch it up, but this is a little deterrent. Another thing that's nice to have is a hitch lock. It just kind of replaces the the one that comes with the hitch. And if you get this particular kind, you just have to push it on there and then lock it, and it's locked. And it's a lot better than the ones where you have to turn the lock several times to get it to screw onto the shaft. I much prefer these. You just turn the key in, off it comes. And that way when you're at the campground, you don't have to take the hitch off every time you want to go somewhere. Things you'll want is a level, so you can kind of tell if you need to put blocks under the wheels. You're going to want to set up a nice long household level on the frame and then stick that on there at center point. And then do the same on the side for the pitch. So that'll be a pitch and roll for this one. Another thing I found I needed was a battery cutoff switch. The LP sensor and some other stuff is drawing enough that by the time I've stored it a month and I go raise the tongue jack and then put it back down on my car, it's pretty much dying. So I figured it's just stuff inside the trailer, leakage currents, draining the batteries. A rear camera that goes on the license plate, and it's wireless, and I think they're great, except this particular one kind of stinks. I wouldn't buy the Peak brand wireless, digital wireless. It just doesn't have the range to get to the front of the trailer very well. If you're driving and you want to check behind, see if there's anybody there, it just doesn't work. When you're backing up at a park, usually you can make out whether you're going to run into something, but I find it, is not as valuable as a backup camera as having an observation camera when you're on the road to see if you got somebody behind you so you can pull over and let them by. Well, this doesn't work when you're moving very well. Things I find quite useful is one of these stair step carpets. I might get a second one here. You can kind of leave them on there for the season. You take them off when it gets rainy. But boy, it catches a lot of the needles and stuff from trees. And it really helps you out as far as tracking stuff in the trailer. So as far as dishes are concerned, I really like the Corel. They're very durable. These have flown out of the cabinet on bumpy roads, and they fared well. Another thing that's really nice is having cups with the wide bottoms. They don't fall over. These are plastic. I don't like to just drink out of a plastic coffee cup, so we've got these in the really large bottoms. These were a gift. I wouldn't have thought of it, but they're amazing. You never spill those. So I recommend those. Right, so in your dish cabinet, you really want to have this material that sticks to both sides. It's not glued or anything. It's just abrasive, and it doesn't allow things to slide at all. It's really paid for itself. Over the door hooks, we overuse them, but can't live without them in a trailer that doesn't have a nice closet. All we have is the standard bedroom closets, and they aren't sufficient for all the stuff we need to hang up, robes and coats and stuff. So, the over-the-door hangers work great. FRS radios are pretty good for when you're backing up. Most of us don't need help, figuring out whether to go left or right, but how far to go before you hit the picnic bench at the end of the site, that's a key one there when you're doing like a light check in the back of the trailer or something. You don't have to holler back and forth if somebody's not paying attention. I love having these. I recommend them. Kind of what a mattress looks like in a $20,000 travel trailer, and it's really, really not comfortable. We bought one of these on the road at Fred Meyer for just a few bucks. It took the edge off for the first night, but it's certainly not going to do it for the long run. So we bought a real mattress topper. And I didn't really want a 3-inch or 4-inch mattress topper to add all that weight. They are really, really heavy. We have one in our house. And so we went with a 1.5. It was a gift. But, we mentioned that we couldn't use the thicker ones, so that's kind of what we wanted.
Well, I hope this helps you out in your RV adventures, and happy trails.